The Force is light and full of shadows. The N1 starfighter spins through the void above Naboo, its sleek yellow hull catching starlight as it tumbles end over end. Inside the cramped cockpit, 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker's eyes are closed, his small hands limp on the control yoke. The autopilot hums. R2-D2, plugged into the fighter's astromech socket behind the cockpit, chirps frantically. Warning tones, distress signals, electronic panic. Anakin's eyes snap open. Not the slow, groggy awakening of a child roused from sleep. This is violent, electric. The Force doesn't whisper, it screams. His entire body jerks against the restraint harness as the vision slams into his skull like a physical blow. He sees a corridor, red light, energy barriers cycling on and off with mechanical precision. A man kneels in meditation, his long hair falling around his weathered face, his expression serene despite the danger. Behind him, another man paces. No, not a man. Something else. Horned, tattooed, yellow eyes burning with malice. The horned creature holds a weapon that burns crimson at both ends. The energy barriers deactivate. The creature lunges. The kneeling man rises, his green lightsaber igniting, but he's a fraction too slow. The crimson blade punches through his chest. The man's eyes go wide, his mouth opens in a silent gasp. He falls. Anakin hears a voice. Not words, just a feeling. Warm, steady, already fading. The voice of the only man who ever looked at him and saw something more than a slave, more than a problem, more than potential. The voice of the man who believed. Qui-Gon Jinn is about to die. Anakin's eyes focus on the cockpit around him. The vision releases him. But the echo remains, seared into his mind with the permanence of a brand. His breathing is ragged. His hands shake on the controls. R2-D2's frantic beeping suddenly registers as language. Danger, enemy fighters, autopilot engaged. Fall back. Through the transparasteel canopy, space is chaos. Vulture droids scream past in formation, their distinctive tri-wing silhouettes stark against Naboo's blue-green curve. Laser fire stitches red lines through the void. Bravo Squadron, the handful of N1 pilots who launched with him from the feed hangar, are scattered across the battlefield, dodging, firing, dying. And ahead, dominating the orbital space like a predator at rest, sits the droid control ship, the Vutun Pala, a Lucre Hulk-class battleship, its massive ring-shaped hull bristling with weapons and fighter bays. The ship that, if destroyed, would end the invasion instantly. Anakin's targeting computer chirps. R2 has already calculated the approach vector, identified the weak point, the main reactor, deep inside the ship's superstructure. The distance, less than 5 kilometers. At the N1's sublight speed, it's 30 seconds away. He could end the battle right now. He could save the Gungans fighting on the plains below, save Queen Amidala's strike team in the palace, save everyone. His hand moves toward the throttle. The autopilot has already lined up the shot. But the vision pulses again. Not the full sequence this time, just a fragment, a green lightsaber falling from a lifeless hand, a body crumpling to the floor, and that feeling, that warmth, extinguished like a candle in vacuum. No. The word comes out as a whisper, then louder. No. His hands grip the control yoke and wrench it sideways, the N1 banks hard, G-forces slamming him against the restraints. R2-D2 screams, a sound Anakin has never heard the droid make before. Pure electronic distress. I'm not going to the big ship, R2, Anakin shouts over the droid's protests. His fingers fly across the control panel, disengaging the autopilot, overriding the targeting lock, redirecting every system. We're going back down. R2's response is a cacophony of objection. The mission, the battle, the squadron, Rick Olier's orders to stay in formation. The logic of every tactical consideration says Anakin should complete the attack run. Anakin doesn't care about logic. He cares about the man who freed him from slavery, the man who told the Jedi Council that he mattered, the man whose faith in him was the first unconditional thing Anakin ever received in his 9 years of life. I won't let him die, Anakin says. His voice is steady now. Absolute. He pushes the throttle to maximum and dives toward Naboo's atmosphere. The comms explode with voices. Bravo, leader, Rick Olier himself shouts after him. Bravo 6, what are you doing? Return to formation. That's an order. He's already committed. The N1's nose drops toward the planet's terminator, where day meets night, where the capital city of Theed clings to cliff faces above a river that cuts through green plains. The fighter's atmospheric engines engage with a roar that vibrates through the cockpit frame. Re-entry flames lick the canopy. The stars disappear, replaced by the orange-white plasma sheath of a ship moving too fast through thickening air. The buffeting is tremendous. The fighter shakes like it's trying to tear itself apart. Anakin holds the stick steady with both hands, his jaw clenched, his entire world reduced to three things: the controls, the feeling in the Force pulling him forward like a rope around his chest, and the vision of a green blade falling. The flames clear. Naboo's atmosphere opens around him. Blue sky, white clouds, the curve of the planet spreading to the horizon. Below, he can see the great grass plains where the Gungan Grand Army is engaged with the droid forces. Even from this altitude, the battle is visible. Explosions, smoke, the glint of energy shields colliding. Anakin ignores it. The Force is pulling him elsewhere. Not to the plains, to Theed. He angles the fighter toward the city, pushing the atmospheric engines past their rated limits. The N1 was designed for speeds up to 1,100 kilometers per hour in atmosphere. Anakin, channeling the Force through his hands into the controls, coaxes it past 1,200. The airframe screams, warning lights flash across the console. R2 beeps urgent advisories about structural stress. I know, R2. Just hold together. Anakin's eyes are locked forward, but he's not seeing with his eyes anymore. He's seeing with the Force. He feels the city ahead, the palace, the hangars, the power generators built into the cliff face. And deeper, in a place his mind shouldn't be able to reach, he feels two presences. One is light, steady, warm as a sun. Qui. The other is darkness, cold, sharp as broken glass. Something ancient and malevolent, wearing the shape of a man. They are fighting, and the darkness is winning. Anakin's small hands tighten on the controls until his knuckles go white. The city of Theed rises ahead, its domed architecture gleaming in Naboo's sunlight. He pulls up along the cliff face, following the line of the Soleil River as it cascades over the Verdugo Plunge waterfall. The N1's repulsor lifts engage, shifting the fighter from pure thrust to hover capability. The plasma refinery complex looms before him. Built into the cliff itself, its stone and durasteel structure blends with the natural rock. There are no visible entrances on this side, just the sheer face of the complex wall, overlooking hundreds of meters of empty air above the river. But Anakin doesn't need to see an entrance. He can feel them through the wall, the clash of light and dark happening in a space his conscious mind cannot visualize, but his Force sense maps with perfect clarity. They're inside, deep inside, separated by energy barriers, fighting in a narrow corridor, and Qui-Gon is losing ground. R2, lock proton torpedoes on that wall. Anakin's voice is remarkably calm for a 9-year-old child about to fire ship-mounted weapons at a building. R2-D2's response is immediate and unambiguous. A long, descending whistle that translates clearly as, "Absolutely not." "Do it," Anakin shouts. "Trust me." The droid hesitates. A full second of silence that feels like an eternity. Then the targeting computer activates. A reticle appears on Anakin's heads-up display, painting a section of the cliff face wall in glowing red. The weapons system chirps. Torpedoes armed. Target locked. Anakin's finger hovers over the trigger. For a fraction of a second, doubt creeps in. He's 9 years old. He's never fired a weapon at anything except battle droids in space. He's about to blow a hole in a building based on nothing but a feeling. But the feeling is certain. The Force doesn't guess. And Anakin Skywalker, though he doesn't know the term yet, is the chosen one. Born with a midi-chlorium count over 20,000 per cell, the highest ever recorded. When the Force speaks to him, it speaks with clarity that Jedi Masters spend lifetimes trying to achieve. He pulls the trigger. The proton torpedo launches from the N1's ventral tube with a flash of blue propellant. The weapon is designed to penetrate capital ship armor, layered durasteel plating meters thick, reinforced with ray shielding. A building wall, even one built into a cliff, is nothing. The torpedo crosses the 50 meters between the hovering fighter and the plasma refinery complex in less than a second. It impacts the exterior wall exactly where Anakin targeted it. The explosion is catastrophic. The intervention. Inside the plasma refinery complex in the Lasergate corridor, Qui-Gon Jinn kneels in meditation. The 6 energy barriers cycle before him, walls of deadly red light that activate and deactivate in sequence, each one separating him further from his Padawan. Obi-Wan Kenobi is trapped several barriers back, his face pressed close to the fourth gate, his hand raised as if he could reach through the energy field through sheer will. Qui-Gon doesn't look back at his apprentice. He breathes, in and out, slow and measured. The living force flows through him and around him. There is no emotion. There is peace. He has trained for 50 years to reach this state of centeredness, and he achieves it now because his life, and Obi-Wan's life, and perhaps the fate of Naboo itself, depends on it. 3 meters ahead, on the other side of the first barrier, Darth Maul paces like a caged predator. The Zabrak's yellow eyes never leave Qui-Gon's kneeling form. His double-bladed lightsaber is deactivated but held ready in both hands. He shifts his weight from foot to foot, his muscles coiled, his hatred radiating through the Force, like heat from a furnace. The barriers will cycle open in seconds. When they do, the duel will resume. And Qui-Gon knows, though he has not admitted it even to himself, that he is tiring. Maul is younger, faster, fueled by rage that grants him strength at the cost of strategy. The Sith apprentice fights like he has nothing to lose, because in truth, he doesn't. He is a weapon wielded by a hidden hand. Victory or death are the only outcomes he comprehends. Qui-Gon, by contrast, fights to protect, to preserve, to ensure that Obi-Wan survives even if he does not. That calculation creates hesitation, and hesitation against an opponent like Maul is fatal. The barriers begin their cycle. 5th gate deactivates. 4th, 3rd, 2nd. Qui-Gon's eyes open. His hand moves to his lightsaber hilt. He draws a breath, preparing to rise. The wall explodes. Not figuratively. The exterior wall of the plasma refinery complex, solid stone reinforced with durasteel support beams, detonates inward with a sound like thunder compressed into a single instant. The shockwave hits Qui-Gon from the side, lifting him off his knees and slamming him against the corridor wall. His lightsaber flies from his grip, clattering across the floor. Darth Maul staggers. The Zabrak's perfect predatory balance is broken as debris rains down around him. Chunks of stone, twisted metal, clouds of pulverized rock. He throws up one arm to shield his face, his boots skidding on the suddenly unstable floor. Light floods the corridor, not the red glow of the laser gates. Daylight. The explosion has punched a hole through the exterior wall large enough to fly a speeder through. Wind howls into the complex, carrying with it the scent of the river below and the acrid tang of explosive propellant. Qui-Gon rolls to his feet, calling his lightsaber back to his hand through the Force. His ears are ringing, his vision swims, but his training holds. He ignites his blade, green light cutting through the settling dust, and immediately assesses. Maul is 10 meters away, also recovering. The Sith apprentice's double-bladed saber snaps to life, both ends burning crimson. His yellow eyes find Qui-Gon through the haze. For the first time in their duel, Qui-Gon sees something in those eyes other than rage. Confusion, then movement in the smoke. A shape appears in the hole where the wall used to be. For a moment it's just a silhouette, too large to be a person, too sleek to be rubble. The dust clears enough to reveal it fully. An N1 starfighter hovers in the breach, its repulsor lifts glowing blue against the cliff face beyond. The fighter's nose is pointed into the corridor. Its twin laser cannons are aimed directly at Darth Maul. Through the transparisteel canopy, Qui-Gon sees a small figure in the pilot's seat. A child. Brown hair, wide eyes that carry an intensity no 9-year-old should possess. Anakin. The recognition hits Qui-Gon like a physical blow. The boy was supposed to stay in the starfighter during the space battle. He was supposed to remain safely in the cockpit, sheltered by Bravo Squadron. Nowhere near danger. What is he doing here? How did he? The Force provides the answer before Qui-Gon's conscious mind can finish the question. The boy felt him. Across kilometers of space and atmosphere, through stone walls and the chaos of battle, Anakin Skywalker reached out with the Force and found Qui-Gon Jinn in mortal danger, and he came. A 9-year-old child with no Jedi training just flew a starfighter back from orbit and fired a proton torpedo through a building wall to save a man he barely knows. The magnitude of that act, the power it represents, the connection to the Force it requires, the sheer impossibility made possible, crashes over Qui-Gon like a wave. This is not a gifted child. This is not even a prodigy. This is the chosen one, the prophecy made flesh. And he is here. Darth Maul doesn't waste time on shock. The Sith apprentice sees the fighter, sees the weapons aimed at him, and moves. He leaps backward with Force-enhanced speed, crossing 15 meters in a single bound, his boots finding purchase on one of the narrow catwalks that crisscross the main generator chamber beyond the corridor. Qui-Gon pursues. Not to kill, Qui-Gon Jinn has never sought death, not even for his enemies. But to end this, he drives forward with a burst of Ataru velocity, his green blade tracing figure eights through the air, each strike aimed to disable rather than destroy. Maul blocks the first strike, the second. But his footing is compromised now. The catwalks are only 2 meters wide, with no railings, suspended over the massive hemispherical chamber that houses Theed's primary power generators. One misstep means a fall of hundreds of meters into the energy extraction shaft below. Qui-Gon presses the advantage. His blade comes down in an overhead strike, a classic Ataru opening, telegraphed but powerful. Maul brings his double saber up to block, but the angle is wrong. The defensive position requires both hands on his weapon's central hilt. His grip is solid, his leverage is perfect. Qui-Gon's blade doesn't aim for Maul's body, it aims for the saber hilt itself. The green lightsaber crashes into the center of Maul's weapon with the full strength of a Jedi Master in his prime, backed by the Force, driven by the absolute certainty that this is the moment. The double-bladed hilt, Beskar-plated, Sith-forged, built to withstand impacts that would shatter lesser weapons, holds for exactly 1 second. Then it cracks. Not a clean break. The internal power cells are breached. The energy containment fields collapse. The weapon doesn't explode. Lightsabers are built with too many failsafes for that. But both blades sputter and die simultaneously. Maul is left holding a broken hilt that trails sparks and smoke. Qui-Gon's blade comes to rest at Maul's throat. The green light reflects in the Zabrak's yellow eyes. For a heartbeat, they stand frozen. Master and Sith, victor and defeated. It's over, Qui-Gon says. His voice is steady. He's not even breathing hard. Maul's lips peel back from his teeth in a snarl. No words, just pure distilled hatred. And then he does exactly what Qui-Gon expects. He jumps backward, choosing the fall over capture. But Qui-Gon is ready. His free hand extends. The Force reaches out, not as a weapon, but as a tool. He pushes, not to throw Maul further into the abyss, to redirect his trajectory. Maul's body spins in midair. Instead of falling straight down into the energy shaft, he careens sideways toward one of the chamber's maintenance platforms. He hits the durasteel grating with bone-breaking force and doesn't get up. From the corridor behind Qui-Gon, boots pound on stone. Obi-Wan Kenobi sprints through the now open laser gates, his own blue lightsaber ready. He bursts onto the catwalk and sees his master, standing, alive, breathing. A starfighter hovering impossibly in a hole blown through the exterior wall, and in the chamber below, a black and red figure sprawled motionless on a platform. Obi-Wan skids to a halt. His blade lowers. His eyes move from Qui-Gon to the fighter to the fallen Sith, and back to Qui-Gon. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. Master? Qui-Gon deactivates his lightsaber. He looks at the N1 hovering 30 meters away, at the small face visible through the canopy, at the boy whose connection to the Force just changed the course of history. Anakin came back, Qui-Gon says quietly. Behind them, the city of Theed erupts in the sounds of continuing battle. The palace assault, the space engagement, the Gungan army on the plains. The war is not over. The control ship still functions. But in this moment, in this chamber, a Sith apprentice lies defeated, and a Jedi Master draws breath because a 9-year-old slave from Tatooine trusted a feeling. The Force, Qui-Gon thinks, works in ways beyond any Jedi's comprehension. The Theed hangar is exactly as Anakin left it 20 minutes ago, and completely different. The Royal Starship still sits on its landing pad, its chromium hull gleaming. The remaining N1 fighters are docked in their maintenance bays, silent and empty. But the atmosphere has changed. What was organized chaos during the evacuation has become tense anticipation. Everyone is waiting. Anakin brings the fighter in on repulsor lifts, his hands moving across the controls with the unconscious precision that the Force grants him. The landing is textbook smooth. Soft touchdown, perfect alignment with the designated pad, engines powering down in the correct sequence. R2-D2, still plugged into the astromech socket, emits a long, relieved whistle. Anakin doesn't wait for the cockpit to fully depressurize. He hits the canopy release, yanks off his restraint harness, and scrambles out of the pilot's seat. His legs are shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline crash that follows doing something impossible. He slides down the fighter's wing surface, and his boots hit the hangar floor, and he's running before his conscious mind registers the decision to run. Qui-Gon Jinn stands near the hangar entrance, speaking with Obi-Wan and Captain Panaka. The Jedi Master's robes are dusty, torn in places, streaked with the gray powder of pulverized stone. His long hair is disheveled, but he's upright. Alive, whole. Anakin doesn't slow down. He crosses the 40 meters between the fighter and the Jedi Master at a dead sprint. Qui-Gon turns, sees him coming, and kneels just in time to catch the boy as he collides with him. The embrace is total. Anakin wraps his arms around Qui-Gon's neck with the desperate strength of a child who almost lost the only good thing in his life. Qui-Gon's arms close around the small body, one hand coming up to cradle the back of Anakin's head. Neither speaks. For a long moment, there are no words, just a 9-year-old boy and the man who freed him, holding on to each other in the aftermath of impossible violence. When Anakin finally pulls back, his eyes are wet, but he's not crying. He looks up at Qui-Gon's face, really looks, cataloging every detail. The lines around the Master's eyes, the small cut on his left cheek, the way his breathing is steady and strong. All the things that confirm he's real and present and alive. "I saw you die," Anakin says. His voice is small but absolutely clear. "The Force showed me. The red blade went through your chest, right here." He touches Qui-Gon's sternum, exactly where Maul's saber would have pierced. "I came back because I couldn't let it happen." The hangar goes silent. Captain Panaka stops mid-sentence. Obi-Wan's hand moves unconsciously to his lightsaber hilt, not as threat but as anchor. Several nearby pilots and guards turn to stare. Qui-Gon's expression doesn't change, but something shifts behind his eyes. As a Jedi Master with 5 decades of training and experience, he understands immediately what Anakin is describing. Not a dream, not imagination. A vision. A precognitive impression of a specific future event, seen with enough clarity to identify the exact method of death, received by an untrained 9-year-old child with sufficient time to act and change the outcome. Visions of that precision are rare among Jedi Knights. Among Masters, they're uncommon. Among Padawans, they're almost unheard of. And this child had one clear enough to navigate back from orbit and target a weapon through a solid wall at the exact moment it would matter most. "You saw my death," Qui-Gon says slowly, "and you prevented it." "Yes, sir." Anakin nods vigorously. Then his expression darkens. "And there's more. I know what he was. The man with the horns. He was a Sith." And the boy's voice drops to a whisper, but in the quiet hangar everyone hears it anyway. "There's another one. A master. He's hiding. He's close to us. I can't see his face, but I know he's there." Obi-Wan inhales sharply. Qui-Gon's hand tightens fractionally on Anakin's shoulder. The implications are staggering. Always two there are, a master and an apprentice. Yoda's words from a dozen council sessions echo in Qui-Gon's memory. If the horned warrior was the apprentice, then somewhere, close, Anakin says, close to us, the Sith Master lurks. Before Qui-Gon can respond, a new voice cuts through the moment. "What about the control ship?" Captain Panaka strides forward, his face tight with barely controlled urgency. "The droid army hasn't stopped. The Gungans are being overwhelmed. My security forces report the droids in the palace courtyard are still advancing. If that ship isn't destroyed, Bravo Squadron is engaging now." Rick Olier's voice crackles over the hangar's comm system. The pilot's transmission is overlaid with the sounds of battle, laser fire, explosions, the distinctive whine of vulture droid engines. "We're making our approach." The kid's astromech droid transmitted shield frequency data before he broke off. "We're uploading it to our targeting computers now." On the hangar's main tactical display, the space battle resolves into real-time tracking. The droid control ship Vutun Pala shows as a massive red icon in low orbit. Bravo Squadron's remaining fighters, 6 N1s out of the original 9, appear as blue markers converging on the battleship's position. Anakin pulls away from Qui-Gon and moves to the display screen, his eyes tracking the fighter positions with the instinctive understanding of a pilot. "R2 got the shield frequencies when I was near the ship. If they use those," the display updates. One of the blue markers breaks from formation, accelerates and plunges directly toward the control ship's central sphere. Rick Olier's voice, "I'm going in. Target locked on the main reactor. All fighters, cover my approach." The remaining 5 N1s form a defensive screen, their laser cannons firing in coordinated bursts to clear vulture droids from Bravo leader's path. On the display, it looks like an intricate dance. blue and red markers weaving through space, some vanishing as fighters are destroyed, others persisting. Rick Olier's fighter reaches the control ship's hull. The shields, designed to repel energy weapons and missiles, flicker as the N1 passes through them on the precise frequency R2-D2 recorded. Ollier doesn't crash into the hangar as Anakin did in the timeline that no longer exists. He makes a controlled approach, fires a full spread of proton torpedoes directly into the exposed reactor assembly, and pulls up hard. The explosion is visible even from the surface. A flash of white light blossoms in orbit, expanding rapidly as the battleship's main power core suffers catastrophic failure. Secondary explosions ripple along the ring-shaped hull. The massive vessel begins to list, its orbit decaying. In the hangar, the tactical display shows the control ship's icon flickering and then going dark. The comm system erupts with cheers from Bravo Squadron. Rick Olier's voice, breathless but triumphant. Target destroyed. The ship is dead. All security teams, report status. Have the droids shut down? The response comes in stages, first from the palace courtyard, then from positions throughout Theed, finally from the Gungan army on the plains. The same message, repeated with variations of relief and exhaustion. The droids have stopped moving. The battle is over. The hangar explodes in celebration. Pilots embrace, guards cheer. Someone starts crying. The weight of impossible odds, of facing an army they had no hope of defeating, lifts all at once, and the release is overwhelming. Anakin doesn't join the celebration. He stands beside Qui-Gon, watching the tactical display, his small face serious. Qui-Gon notices and kneels beside him again. You chose to save me instead of destroying the ship yourself, Qui-Gon says quietly, under the noise of celebration. You knew what that choice meant. The battle could have been lost. I know, Anakin says. But you're more important than the battle. You're more important than, he struggles for words. You believe in me. No one ever believed in me before. Not like you do. I couldn't let you die. Qui-Gon feels something crack inside his chest, not painfully, but like ice breaking in spring thaw. He has trained Padawans before. He has mentored, guided, taught. But this 9-year-old child, who barely knows him, who owes him nothing except freedom from slavery, just risked a planetary battle to save his life, and he did it because of belief. Because someone finally looked at Anakin Skywalker and saw worth. The Force works in mysterious ways, Qui-Gon says, and he's not speaking to Anakin now, but to himself, to the universe, to whatever cosmic power arranged for their paths to cross on a desert planet at precisely the right moment. You were meant to be here, Anakin. I feel it, and I think, he pauses, choosing words carefully. I think you were meant to do exactly what you did. He's been watching the exchange, saying nothing but his eyes carry questions. Master, we should retrieve the Sith's weapon. If the Council... Yes. Qui-Gon stands, one hand still resting on Anakin's shoulder. The lightsaber. And we need to secure the body if he survived the fall. The maintenance platform where Maul landed is splattered with blood. Black Zabrak blood, already drying, but the body is gone. A trail of blood leads to an access hatch, forced open from the inside. He survived, wounded, but alive enough to escape. But the broken lightsaber hilt remains where it fell. Qui-Gon retrieves it carefully, wrapping the weapon in cloth. The double-bladed design is unmistakable. The synthetic red crystals visible through the cracked casing are proof of Sith construction. The Council will want to see this, because if a Sith apprentice attacked them on Naboo, then the ancient enemy has returned, and somewhere, a Sith master waits in shadow. On the walk back to the hangar, Anakin stays close to Qui-Gon's side. The boy is quiet now, the adrenaline fully worn off, exhaustion setting in. He stumbles once, and Qui-Gon says gently, It's been a long day. Will you stay with me? Anakin asks, not demanding, just asking, hoping. Yes. Qui-Gon says without hesitation. I'm not going anywhere, Anakin. I promise. The boy's hand slips into Qui-Gon's. It's a child's gesture, simple, trusting, seeking comfort. Qui-Gon's fingers close around those small fingers and he makes a silent vow to the Force, to himself, to the 9-year-old walking beside him. This boy will never be alone again. Whatever the Council says, whatever rules must be bent or broken, Anakin Skywalker will have what every child deserves and what the Force clearly intends him to have. A father. The Council meeting, the Jedi Temple rises from Coruscant's surface like a monument to 1,000 generations. 5 spires reaching toward a sky that never quite achieves natural blue through the layers of atmospheric haze and traffic lanes. The High Council chamber occupies the tallest spire's peak, a circular room ringed with 12 seats and panoramic windows that overlook the city planet's endless sprawl. Qui-Gon Jinn stands in the chamber's center, his posture relaxed, but his presence commanding. To his right stands Obi-Wan Kenobi, newly knighted after 3 days of intensive trials that the Council accelerated in light of recent events. The formal Padawan braid is gone from Obi-Wan's hair, but the weight of his new responsibilities shows in the careful way he holds himself. Anakin Skywalker waits outside in the corridor. The boy wanted to come in, to hear what they say about him, but Qui-Gon insisted he wait. Some conversations happen beyond a child's hearing, not for cruelty, but for protection. The 12 council seats are filled. Yoda sits in his customary position near the window, his gimmer stick resting across his lap, his ancient eyes half closed in what might be meditation, or might be careful observation. Mace Windu occupies the seat to Yoda's right, his dark face impassive, but his attention absolute. The other 10 masters, Ki-Adi Mundi, Plo Koon, Saesee Tiin, Adi Gallia, Yarael Poof, Oppo Rankisis, even Piel, Depa Bilaba, Ethkoth, and Yaddle complete the circle. On the floor between Qui-Gon and the council, wrapped in simple cloth, lies Darth Maul's broken lightsaber. "Show us the weapon," Mace Windu says. Not a request, a command. Qui-Gon kneels and unwraps the cloth. The double-bladed hilt gleams under the chamber's ambient lighting, black metal, Beskar-plated with a central grip and emitter arrays on both ends. The weapon is damaged, the casing is cracked where Qui-Gon's blade severed it, and the internal components are visible through the fracture. Most tellingly, the synthetic kyber crystals can be seen, deep crimson, artificially created, pled through dark-side rituals that the Jedi have not practiced in a millennium. The council members lean forward in their seats. Several extend their hands, reaching into the Force to examine the weapon without touching it. The dark side residue is palpable, a cold, oily sensation that clings to the hilt like radiation. "A Sith weapon," Ki-Adi Mundi says quietly. "There's no doubt. Constructed according to ancient designs," Adi Gallia adds, her voice carrying the analytical tone of someone who has studied forbidden texts. The double-bladed configuration was favored by Sith assassins during the Old Republic era. Aggressive, overwhelming, designed to kill multiple opponents simultaneously. Yoda's eyes opened fully. Proof this is. That returned, the Sith have. Hidden for a millennium they were. No longer. Mace Windu's gaze moves from the weapon to Qui-Gon. "You're certain he was a Sith? Not simply a dark side user? Not a fallen Jedi with a custom weapon?" "I am certain," Qui-Gon says. His fighting style was Form 7 Juyo, refined beyond anything I've seen. His connection to the dark side was absolute, not a Jedi who fell, but someone trained from the beginning in Sith traditions. And, he pauses, choosing his words carefully, young Anakin confirmed it. "The boy," Mace says, and there's a weight to those 2 words that fills the chamber. "Let's discuss the boy. Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. I stake my reputation and my understanding of the Force on this fact." "Strong words," Plo Koon says, his voice filtered through his Antioch's mask. "You staked your reputation before, Qui-Gon, on Obi-Wan when we hesitated to approve his training. You were right then, but this is different. The boy is 9 years old, far too old for traditional training." "The prophecy does not mention age," Qui-Gon counters. "A chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored. Anakin was born of no father. His mother told me directly. There was no father. And his midi-chlorian count exceeds 20,000 per cell." Even Mace Windu, who rarely shows surprise, blinks once. Yarael Poof leans forward in his seat, his elongated neck curving as he studies Qui-Gon's face for any sign of deception. 20,000? Yaddle's voice is soft but carries clearly. "Tested yourself, you have?" "I tested him personally on Tatooine, using a standard field analyzer. The result was unambiguous. Over 20,000 midi-chlorians per cell, the highest concentration ever recorded, higher than Master Yoda's count, higher than any Jedi in the Temple archives. The count proves power." Mace says slowly, "It does not prove destiny. Then consider what he did on Naboo." Qui-Gon's voice intensifies. He's not arguing now. He's testifying. "Anakin received a precognitive vision while in orbit. He saw my death with perfect clarity, the specific location, the method, the weapon. He saw a future event that had not yet occurred, processed that vision in the seconds available to him, and made a choice that altered the timeline. A 9-year-old child with no Jedi training changed the future through an act of will guided by the Force. Describe the vision, Yoda says. His eyes are fixed on Qui-Gon now, and there's an intensity in that ancient gaze that brooks no evasion. Qui-Gon recounts Anakin's description. The laser gate corridor, the horned Sith, the green lightsaber raised too slowly, the crimson blade piercing his chest. He describes how Anakin broke off from the attack on the control ship, dove back to Naboo's surface, targeted a proton torpedo through solid stone using only his force sense of where the combatants were positioned, and arrived at the exact moment to disrupt Maul's killing blow. He also piloted a Naboo N1 starfighter with zero training, Obi-Wan adds. The N1 is not a beginner's vehicle. It requires precise coordination, spatial awareness, and reflexes that most adult pilots struggle to develop. Anakin flew it as though he'd been doing it for years, because the Force was guiding him. Piloting skill and visions, Qui-Gon says thoughtfully, both are signs of Force sensitivity, but they could also be explained by exceptional natural talent combined with luck. There's more, Qui-Gon says. He takes a breath, knowing this next part will test the Council's credulity. After the battle, Anakin told me something he should not have known. He identified the warrior as a Sith, not through deduction, but through knowledge. And he said there is another, a Sith master. He said this master is hiding, close to us, and that he can sense the shape of a larger conspiracy. Mace's hand tightens on the armrest of his seat. A 9-year-old child is claiming to sense a Sith conspiracy that we, the entire Jedi Council, have failed to detect. And I believe him. Clouded, the boy's future is, Yoda says, and his voice carries a sadness that makes several council members turn to look at him. Sense much fear in him. I do. Fear of loss. Fear of separation. Fear of death. The path to the dark side, these fears, are. All children fear loss, Qui-Gon counters. Anakin was a slave until 4 days ago. His mother remains in slavery on Tatooine. Of course he fears separation from the people he cares about. But fear is not the same as falling to the dark side. Fear acknowledged and faced can be transmuted into courage. Fear denied and suppressed festers into anger. The code is clear, Mace says. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. We've seen this progression too many times to dismiss it. The code is also clear that there is no emotion, there is peace. Qui-Gon responds, his voice taking on the tone of someone who has had this argument before and knows every counterpoint. It is the mastery of it. I'm not proposing we ignore Anakin's fear. I'm proposing we teach him to face it, to understand it, to let it flow through him, and pass on. That is the way of the living Force. The living Force. Mace's voice carries a hint of exasperation. Your philosophy, Qui-Gon, is well known and respected, but it is not the way of the Order. Then perhaps the Order's way needs to adapt. Qui-Gon meets Mace's gaze without flinching. Masters, I am not asking your permission to believe Anakin is the chosen one. I am informing you of a fact that the Force has made clear to me. What I am asking is permission to train him as my Padawan. Obi-Wan is your Padawan, Qui-Gon points out. Obi-Wan is a Jedi Knight as of 3 days ago, Qui-Gon says, gesturing to his former apprentice. He passed his trials with distinction. He no longer requires my instruction. Obi-Wan speaks for the first time since presenting the weapon. Masters, I support my former master's assessment. I've spent 4 days with Anakin Skywalker. I've seen his abilities firsthand. I've felt his presence in the Force. Whatever he is, chosen one or simply extraordinarily gifted, he should not be left untrained. An untrained Force sensitive of his power is dangerous. A trained one could be extraordinary. Yoda's ears lower slightly. Too old the boy is. 9 years lived he has. Outside the Order. Attachments formed he has. His mother on Tatooine remains. Letting go, difficult for him it will be. Then we help him learn to let go without abandoning those he loves, Qui-Gon says. We teach him that love and attachment are not the same thing. That caring for someone does not mean clinging to them. That the Force flows through all living beings, and separation in space does not mean separation in the Force. Unorthodox, Yaddle observes. Necessary, Qui-Gon responds. Mace Windu stands and walks to the center of the chamber. He picks up Maul's broken lightsaber, turning it over in his hands, his Shatterpoint ability allowing him to see the fault lines in both the weapon and the situation. If we refuse to train the boy, what will you do? Qui-Gon doesn't hesitate. I will leave the order and train him myself. Several council members exchange glances. Obi-Wan's expression doesn't change, but his hand moves unconsciously to his lightsaber hilt, not as a threat, just as an anchor to steady himself. You would abandon the Jedi Order, Mace says slowly, for a child you met 4 days ago. I would honor the will of the Force, Qui-Gon corrects. I have served the Order for 50 years. I have done everything asked of me, and more. But if the Order cannot see what stands before it, if we are so bound by tradition and fear that we reject the Chosen One when he appears, then the Order has lost its way, and I will not lose mine. Yoda closes his eyes. His presence in the Force expands, reaching outward, touching the edges of the chamber and beyond. The other council members feel it, the Grand Master's awareness sweeping across Coruscant, across the temple, searching for something they cannot perceive. When Yoda's eyes open again, they are troubled. A disturbance in the Force there is, growing stronger, clouding our vision. The dark side it is, closer than we thought. The Sith Master, Qui-Gon says. Anakin was right. Perhaps, Yoda concedes. Perhaps not, but blind we have been. Admit this, we must. If the Sith returned and we sensed them not, he trails off, the implication clear. The Jedi Council, for all its power and wisdom, failed to detect the ancient enemy's resurgence until a Sith apprentice attacked them directly. Mace sets down the lightsaber and returns to his seat. The boy is dangerous, his power, his age, his attachments. All of it presents risk. All Padawans present risk, Qui-Gon says. The question is whether we guide that risk or abandon it. Abandon, we will not, Yoda says firmly. But careful, we must be. Train the boy, Qui-Gon Jinn may. But watch him. We will. Closely. Regular evaluations before this council required they are. Any sign of darkness? Any failure in his training? Bring him to us immediately, you must. And the Sith Master? Plo Koon asks. If the boy is right about a larger conspiracy, investigate we will, Yoda says, quietly. The Senate must not know our suspicions. Not yet. Trust no one. We can, until more we know. Qui-Gon bows. Thank you, masters. I will train Anakin to the best of my ability, and I will find the Sith Master. I swear it. See that you do, Mace says, because if you're wrong about this boy, if he falls, the consequences will be catastrophic. I am not wrong, Qui-Gon says. The Force is never wrong. The council session concludes. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan exit the chamber together. In the corridor outside, Anakin sits on the floor, his back against the wall, his small face anxious. He looks up as the door opens, his eyes searching Qui-Gon's expression for any sign of rejection. Qui-Gon kneels in front of him. Anakin Skywalker, the council has agreed to permit me to train you as my Padawan, if you're willing to accept the commitment, the discipline, and the challenges that training will require. Anakin's face transforms. The anxiety vanishes, replaced by joy so pure and unguarded that Obi-Wan, watching from the side, feels his own throat tighten. The boy throws his arms around Qui-Gon's neck for the second time in 4 days. I'll work hard, Anakin says, his voice muffled against Qui-Gon's shoulder. I'll do everything you tell me. I won't let you down. I promise. I know you won't, Qui-Gon says gently. But Anakin, before we begin, there's something we need to discuss. Something important. Anakin pulls back, his expression becoming serious. What? Your mother? Dooku's redemption. The architecture is old, pre-Republic old, with stone walls thick enough to withstand siege and windows tall enough to let in the mountain light. Dooku had this place built 600 years before he was born. His family has occupied it ever since. The hangar where Qui-Gon's ship lands is newer, retrofitted into the cliff face 3 generations ago, equipped with modern repulsor platforms and atmospheric shields. But the aesthetic remains deliberately archaic. Dooku values history, order, tradition. Qui-Gon descends the boarding ramp with Anakin at his side. The boy is dressed in simple Jedi initiate's robes, brown and beige, sized down to fit his small frame. He looks around the hangar with wide eyes, taking in the polished stone floors, the atmospheric tapestries hanging from the walls, the sheer wealth represented in every architectural detail. Stay close, Qui-Gon murmurs to Anakin. And be respectful. Count Dooku is complicated. Is he a Jedi? Anakin asks. He was. He's my former master. But he's been spending more time here on Serenno lately, away from the temple. I'm worried about him. The boy nods, his expression solemn. He understands worry. He's spent 9 years worrying about his mother, about when the next beating would come from Watto, about whether there would be enough food. Worry is familiar territory. They walk through corridors lined with artifacts, ancient lightsaber hilts under preservation fields, fragments of Sith holocrons too damaged to activate, manuscripts in languages dead before the Republic's founding. Dooku collects history the way other beings collect art. The Count waits for them in the Great Hall, a vast room with a ceiling 4 stories high, dominated by a massive fireplace where logs crackle despite Serenno's temperate climate. Dooku himself stands before the fire, his back to the door, his posture aristocratic even in isolation. He's taller than Qui-Gon, his hair and beard pure white, his presence in the Force like a blade. Sharp, controlled, carrying an edge that wasn't there the last time Qui-Gon visited. He wears civilian clothes, not Jedi robes. Expensive fabric, tailored perfectly, the wardrobe of a count rather than a monk. Master, Qui-Gon says, and the word carries decades of history. Dooku turns. His face is exactly as Qui-Gon remembers. Aristocratic features, piercing eyes, the kind of bearing that makes people instinctively defer to his authority. But when those eyes land on Qui-Gon, something cracks in that perfect composure. For just a moment, less than a second, Dooku's face shows naked relief. Then the aristocratic mask snaps back into place. Qui-Gon Jinn, Dooku says. His voice is cultured, modulated, carrying the accent of Serenno's upper class. I did not expect to see you. The HoloNet reported you were injured on Naboo, attacked by a dark side warrior. I was, Qui-Gon says. He gestures to Anakin. This is Anakin Skywalker, my new Padawan. Anakin, this is Count Dooku of Serenno. He was my master when I was your age. It's an honor to meet you, sir. Dooku's eyes move to the boy, and for a long moment he simply stares. Qui-Gon can feel his former master reaching into the Force, examining Anakin's presence. The boy doesn't flinch under the scrutiny. He meets Dooku's gaze steadily. Extraordinary, Dooku murmurs. His midi-chlorian count, it's unlike anything I've sensed. What is he? The chosen one, Qui-Gon says simply. The one prophesied to bring balance to the Force. The prophecy. You always did put too much faith in mysticism, Qui-Gon. And you always put too much faith in control, Qui-Gon responds. The words are not hostile. They carry the easy challenge of two people who know each other too well for pretense. Master, we need to talk. Privately. About what happened on Naboo. Dooku studies his former Padawan's face for 3 heartbeats. Then he nods. Very well. The boy can wait in the library. 3rd door on the left. Young Skywalker, you'll find books there that even the Jedi archives don't possess. Anakin looks to Qui-Gon, who nods permission. The boy leaves, his footsteps echoing in the vast hall. When the door closes behind him, Qui-Gon and Dooku are alone. You look troubled, my old friend, Dooku says. He moves to a side table where a decanter of Serenno wine waits. He pours 2 glasses without asking if Qui-Gon wants one. What happened on Naboo? A Sith apprentice tried to kill me. He very nearly succeeded. He would have succeeded if Anakin hadn't intervened. Dooku's hand freezes mid-pour. The wine splashes against the glass's rim, but doesn't spill. A Sith, you're certain? I have his broken lightsaber as proof. Double-bladed, red synthetic crystals. Form 7 Juyo mastery. Trained from childhood in the dark side, not a fallen Jedi. The Council confirmed it. The Sith have returned after a millennium in hiding. Returned, Dooku says softly. He sets down the decanter and picks up both glasses, handing one to Qui-Gon. Or revealed? The question hangs in the air. Qui-Gon takes the glass but doesn't drink. What do you mean? The Sith are patient. They've had 1,000 years to plan. If one apprentice attacked you openly on Naboo, it means they wanted to be seen. It means they're confident enough to reveal themselves. Dooku walks to the fireplace, staring into the flames. And if they're that confident, it means they've been preparing something large. Always 2 there are. Qui-Gon quotes, a master and an apprentice. If the apprentice attacked me on Naboo, then where is the master? Dooku finishes. He turns and his face is no longer composed. Qui-Gon, the Sith Master, is not hiding in some distant corner of the galaxy. He's close. Very close. Probably within the Republic's highest levels of government. Qui-Gon sets down his wine glass. You say that with certainty, as if you know. When he finally speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper. Because I do know. His name is Darth Sidious, and I've been speaking with him for the past 2 years. The silence that follows is absolute. Qui-Gon's hand moves unconsciously to his lightsaber hilt. Not drawing, just touching. An anchor in a moment where the ground has become unstable. Explain, Qui-Gon says. His voice is level, but there's an edge underneath that Dooku recognizes. Danger. The line between master and traitor is very thin right now. I left the order, Dooku says. In my heart, if not officially. The Council has become complacent. The Senate is corrupt beyond redemption. We serve politicians who care nothing for justice, only power. I watched it for decades, Qui-Gon. I watched the Jedi become tools of a broken system, and I couldn't accept it anymore. So you turned to a Sith Lord? Qui-Gon's voice rises slightly. You who trained me to resist the dark side. You allied with our ancient enemy? I allied with someone who promised to reform a corrupt galaxy. Dooku's own voice hardens. Sidious told me the Republic was failing, that the Jedi were blind to it, that real change required real power, and he was right about everything except he stops. His face contorts with something between rage and grief. Except what? Qui-Gon asks quietly. Except that he sent his apprentice to kill you. Dooku's voice breaks on the last word. He turns away, one hand gripping the fireplace mantle. The horned warrior on Naboo, Darth Maul, Sidious's apprentice. He was sent there deliberately, and you, the word is choked, you nearly died. Qui-Gon crosses the room in 3 strides. He grabs Dooku's shoulder and turns him around forcibly. Look at me, Master. Look at me and tell me everything. The story spills out in fragments. Contacted by Sidious 2 years ago, promised a partnership to reshape the galaxy, shown evidence of Senate corruption that made Dooku's worst suspicions look naive. Told that the Jedi Order had become too rigid to save itself. Given a vision of a new order, not Sith, Dooku insists, but something better, something that combined the strength of the dark with the discipline of the light. He describes killing Jedi Master Sifo Dyas on Sidious's orders, erasing Kamino from the Jedi archives, overseeing the early stages of a clone army project that Dooku didn't fully understand, but was told would provide the leverage needed to force Republic reform. And then Naboo happened, Dooku says. And I learned that Sidious sent Maul to kill you, my former Padawan, the closest thing to family I have left. And I realized, he stops, takes a breath. I realized I was not Sidious's partner. I was his tool, just as the clones are tools, just as the entire conspiracy is a tool. And when I stopped being useful, he would discard me exactly as he tried to discard you. He tried to kill me to push you further into darkness, Qui-Gon says, understanding flooding through him. Your grief would have been the final lever to turn you completely. And it would have worked. If you had died, I would have blamed the Council for not taking the Sith threat seriously. I would have burned the temple in revenge. I would have become everything Sidious wanted. His eyes meet Qui-Gon's. But you didn't die. A 9-year-old boy saw a vision and changed the future. And now I'm standing here, talking to you, and I can't. His voice breaks completely. I can't serve the man who tried to murder you. Qui-Gon releases Dooku's shoulder. You killed Sifo Dyas. I did. You betrayed the Order, erased Kamino, participated in a Sith conspiracy. I did. And now you want redemption. I know that, but I want to stop Sidious. I want to destroy everything I helped him build. I want to... He struggles for words. I want to earn the right to look you in the eye without shame. Qui-Gon is quiet for a long moment. Outside the Great Hall, somewhere in the estate, Anakin is exploring the library. The boy who saved Qui-Gon's life. The boy who changed everything. Tell me about Kamino, Qui-Gon says finally. Tell me about the clone army. Tell me everything you know about Sidious's plan. And then we'll decide what happens next. Dooku tells him. About the inhibitor chips implanted in every clone's brain. About Order 66, the command that will turn the entire clone army against the Jedi in a single coordinated strike. About the separatist movement Sidious is cultivating, designed to justify the clone army's deployment in a manufactured war. About the endgame, the destruction of the Jedi Order, the transformation of the Republic into an empire, and the coronation of Darth Sidious as its emperor. When he finishes, Qui-Gon walks to the window. Outside, Sereno's mountains are beautiful in the afternoon light. Peaceful, untouched by the conspiracy that threatens to devour the galaxy. You have information that could stop all of this, Qui-Gon says, without turning around. Information about Sidious's identity, his plans, his infrastructure. Information that could save the Jedi Order and the Republic both. Yes, Dooku says. But you're a confessed murderer and traitor. If you come forward to the Council, they'll arrest you. Your testimony will be suspect. They may not believe you. I know. Qui-Gon turns. Then we don't go to the Council. Not yet. We gather more evidence. We build a case that doesn't rely solely on your word. And in the meantime, he holds out his hand. You teach Anakin. Dooku stares at the offered hand. Why? Because Anakin will face temptations I'm not equipped to prepare him for. Because you were the best teacher I ever had, even if you lost your way. Qui-Gon's voice softens. And because I believe the Force brought us to this moment for a reason. You can fall further into darkness, or you can turn back toward the light. The choice is yours. It was always yours. Dooku looks at his former Padawan's hand for 10 full seconds. Then he reaches out and clasps it. His grip is strong, steady. I don't deserve this, Dooku says. None of us deserve the chances we're given. Qui-Gon responds. We just have to be brave enough to take them. In the library, Anakin Skywalker sits cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by ancient texts. One book is open in his lap. A treatise on Force philosophy written in basic, simple enough for a child to understand. He's reading about balance, about how the Force is not light or dark, but something larger that encompasses both. He doesn't look up when Qui-Gon and Dooku enter. He's too absorbed in the words. Qui-Gon smiles. This 9-year-old boy saved his life, changed the future, and now, without knowing it, he's about to save Count Dooku's soul. The Force, Qui-Gon thinks for the second time in a week, works in ways beyond any Jedi's comprehension. The training montage. Scene 1. The first lesson, age 9. Naboo. The Verdugo plunge waterfall thunders down the cliff face, mist rising where water meets river below. Qui-Gon and Anakin sit on a flat stone near the edge, close enough to feel the spray but far enough back to avoid the danger. The boy's eyes are closed, his small face scrunched in concentration, his breathing erratic. Don't force it, Qui-Gon says gently. The Force is not something you grab, it's something you allow. I'm trying, Anakin says through gritted teeth. But my mind won't stop. What is your mind doing? Thinking about Mom, about whether she's okay, about whether Watto's being mean to her because I'm gone. The boy's eyes open, frustrated. I can't make it stop. Qui-Gon nods. Then don't make it stop. Feel the thought. Let it be there. Your mother is on Tatooine, and you are here, and you worry about her. That's real. That matters. But he puts his hand over Anakin's heart. The worry lives here, in this moment. And this moment, right now, also contains the water on the rocks, the wind in the grass, the sun on your face, all of it together. Can you feel that? Anakin closes his eyes again. This time his breathing is slower. The scrunched expression softens. I can feel it. The water, the wind, it's all moving, living. The living Force, Qui-Gon says. Not the past, not the future. Right now. This is all you ever need to find peace. The boy is quiet for a long moment. Then, what if I'm scared? Fear you refuse to face, that is the enemy. If you feel fear, look at it. Ask what it's protecting. Fear of losing your mother means you love her. That's good. That's human. But love doesn't require clinging. You can love someone and still let them be free. Do you understand? I think so, Anakin says. It's like I love Mom, but I can't control whether she's okay right now. All I can do is be here and trust the Force and work to get strong enough to help her someday. Exactly, Qui-Gon says, and his voice carries pride. You're learning faster than I did at your age. Scene 2, freeing Shmai. Age 10, Tatooine. Watto's junk shop looks exactly as Anakin remembers. Cluttered, dusty, smelling of machine oil and old electronics. The Toydarian hovers behind his counter, his wings beating lazy patterns, his bulbous eyes tracking the two robed figures who just entered. Jedi, Watto says, his voice carrying suspicion. What do you want? I run honest business here. Qui-Gon's hand rests on Anakin's shoulder, steady, reassuring. We've come for Shmi Skywalker. I'm purchasing her freedom. Best I ever had. You want her, you bring me 50,000 credits. He reaches for the Force. His hand extends, his voice taking on the subtle resonance of a Jedi mind trick. You will free Shmi Skywalker. You will update the slave registry to show her as emancipated. You will accept 20,000 credits as fair compensation. Watto's eyes glaze. I will free Shmi Skywalker. I will update the registry. 20,000 credits is fair. Anakin stares. He's seen Qui-Gon use this technique before, but never on someone who had power over him. Never to accomplish something this important. His mother, free. After 9 years of slavery, Shmi emerges from the back room, wiping her hands on a rag. She sees Anakin and freezes. Ani. The boy runs. He crosses the shop in 4 strides and collides with his mother, wrapping his arms around her waist, burying his face in her work tunic. She drops to her knees and holds him, her hands shaking, her eyes streaming. You came back, she whispers. You came back for me. I promised, Anakin says against her shoulder. I promised I'd come back, and I did. And now you're free. You're free, Mom. You're coming with us. Qui-Gon completes the transaction with Watto, transferring credits from an account funded by Dooku's considerable wealth as Count of Sereno. The registry is updated. The slave chip in Shmi's arm is deactivated. Legally, officially, she is a free woman for the first time in over 20 years. On the transport back to Naboo, Shmi sits beside Anakin, her hand in his, neither of them speaking. She keeps looking at him. The Jedi robes, the training saber at his belt, the confident way he carries himself now. Her boy, free and becoming something extraordinary. Will they let me stay with you? Shmi asks quietly when they're alone in the passenger compartment. The Jedi Order doesn't typically allow. Qui-Gon starts, then stops, looks at the mother and son together, remembers his argument with the council about what Anakin needs. Yes, you'll stay on Naboo, under Senator Amidala's protection. Anakin and I will visit between missions. The Order will have to accept it. Thank you, Shmi says, and the gratitude in her voice makes Qui-Gon's throat tight. For giving him a future, for coming back for me, for everything. He saved my life, Qui-Gon says simply. This is the least I can do. The training montage. Continued Scene 3. The lightsaber, age 12. Ilum. The ice caves of Ilum are silent except for the soft crystalline hum that resonates from deep within the planet's core. Anakin Skywalker, now 12 years old and nearly a head taller than when Qui-Gon first met him, kneels before a wall of frozen crystal formations. His breath mists in the frigid air. His hands are bare despite the cold. Qui-Gon insisted he feel everything without barriers. The crystal chooses the Jedi, Qui-Gon says from behind him. His voice echoes in the cavern. Not the other way around. Reach into the Force. Let it guide you. Anakin closes his eyes. He's learned meditation over 3 years of training, learned to quiet the racing thoughts, to find the still point at his center, to let the living Force flow through him. He extends his awareness into the crystal wall, feeling the unique resonance of each formation. Most feel neutral. Some feel wrong, discordant, incompatible with his Force signature. But one, buried deep in the ice matrix, sings to him. A single note of clarity, like a bell struck in a silent room. He reaches forward. The ice doesn't crack. It melts under his touch, water running down his wrist as his fingers close around a kyber crystal the length of his thumb. When he withdraws his hand, the crystal gleams in his palm, clear blue, like Obi-Wan's, like the Naboo sky on the day he saved Qui-Gon's life. Good, Qui-Gon says. Now we build. The construction takes 3 days. Qui-Gon provides the traditional components: emitter matrix, focusing crystals, power cell, stabilizing ring. But the design is Anakin's own. Where traditional Jedi lightsabers favor elegant simplicity, Anakin's hilt is mechanical, practical with adjustment points and modularity built into the structure. A pilot's tool, an engineer's weapon. It's not traditional, Qui-Gon observes when Anakin presents the finished hilt for inspection. Is that bad? Anakin asks, sudden worry in his voice. No, Qui-Gon smiles. It's perfect. You are not your master. You are not Obi-Wan. You are Anakin Skywalker, son of Shmi, student of the Force. Your lightsaber should reflect who you are. Anakin ignites it for the first time. The blade burns blue and steady, humming with contained power. He swings it experimentally, The weight is perfect, the balance exactly what his hands expected, without conscious calculation. This weapon is part of him now, an extension of his will made manifest. How does it feel? Qui-Gon asks. Anakin looks at his master, the blue light casting shadows across both their faces. It feels like I'm finally a real Jedi. You've been a real Jedi since the day you chose to save me instead of destroying the control ship, Qui-Gon says. The lightsaber is just a symbol. What matters is here. He taps Anakin's chest. And here, he taps Anakin's forehead. Remember that. Scene 4. Sparring with Obi-Wan. AG-14. Coruscant. The Jedi Temple training room is empty except for two figures moving through combat forms, with liquid grace. Obi-Wan Kenobi, now a seasoned knight with several successful missions to his credit, circles Anakin with his blue blade held in classic Soresu guard. Anakin, 14 and gangly in the way of teenagers who have grown too fast, responds with aggressive so strikes, the form V that Qui-Gon has been teaching him. Their blades meet with sharp cracks of contained energy. Obi-Wan deflects rather than blocks, using minimal movement to redirect Anakin's power. You're still telegraphing your overhead strikes, Obi-Wan says, his tone instructional rather than critical. I can see them coming half a second before you commit. He feints high, then drops low and sweeps at Obi-Wan's legs. Obi-Wan jumps the sweep and force pushes Anakin backward, gentle enough not to hurt, strong enough to create distance. Cheeky, Qui-Gon's been teaching you tricks. They reset. Circle. Obi-Wan attacks this time, his Soresu shifting to Ataru for the engagement. He's faster than Anakin, more experienced, his movements refined by years of real combat. But Anakin is stronger now, his connection to the Force deepening with every month of training. When their blades lock, Anakin holds his ground where 2 years ago he would have been driven back. You've improved, Obi-Wan says, genuine respect in his voice. You're still better, Anakin counters. For now, give it 2 more years and I'll be the one struggling to keep up. Obi-Wan deactivates his blade and steps back. Master Qui-Gon is training you well. Better than I could have. They sit on the training room floor, both breathing hard, sweat cooling on their skin. The easy companionship between them is nothing like the fraught master-apprentice relationship they would have had in the timeline that no longer exists. Here, Obi-Wan is older brother rather than reluctant teacher. Anakin is eager student rather than resentful burden. Tell me about your last mission, Anakin says. The one to Mandalore. Obi-Wan's expression shifts, becomes carefully neutral in the way that means he's hiding something. It was complicated. Duchess Satine and I have history. History? Anakin's eyes light up with the particular mischief of a teenager sensing gossip. What kind of history? The kind I'm not discussing with my former master's Padawan, Obi-Wan says firmly, but there's a smile tugging at his lips. Let's just say that if I'd left the order for anyone, it would have been her. Anakin sobers. Why didn't you? And Satine understood that, even if she disagreed with it. Obi-Wan looks at Anakin seriously. The Council teaches that attachment leads to darkness. Master Qui-Gon teaches that attachment and love are different things. I think the truth is somewhere between. You can love someone without possessing them, without needing them to complete you. And if you can manage that, if you can love freely, then maybe it's not a path to darkness at all. Master Qui-Gon told me something similar, Anakin says, about my mom, that loving her doesn't mean I can't let her live her own life on Naboo while I train here. The Jedi Order has been afraid of love for 1,000 years. Maybe it's time we learn the difference between love and fear. Coruscant, the Senate building's grand rotunda is filled with beings from 1,000 worlds. Senators in formal robes, aides carrying datapads, security personnel watching from alcoves. Anakin Skywalker, 16 and no longer gangly, but beginning to fill out with the muscle of intensive training, walks beside Qui-Gon through the crowd. He wears Jedi robes now with the easy confidence of someone who has earned the right to them. Remember, Qui-Gon murmurs as they navigate the crowd, we're here to observe, not participate. Senator Amidala has invited us to watch the debate on the Military Creation Act. Pay attention to who argues for what. Politics shapes the galaxy as much as the Force does. Below them, the Senate floor is organized chaos, floating repulsor pods, each containing a planetary delegation, arranged in a massive sphere around the central podium where the Supreme Chancellor presides. The current Chancellor is a Kifar named Katera, elected 2 years ago after the previous Chancellor retired, defeating several candidates including Bail Organa of Alderaan. Anakin's attention is drawn to one pod in particular, the Naboo delegation, and standing at its front, addressing the Senate with a voice that carries absolute conviction, is Padme Amidala. She's 24 now, no longer a queen but a senator, and Anakin hasn't seen her in 3 years. The last time was when he was 13, an awkward boy trying to thank her for sheltering his mother. Now that's the word that hits him first, though he immediately feels embarrassed by how inadequate it is. She's not just beautiful, she's brilliant. Her speech dismantles the arguments for military expansion with surgical precision, citing economic data, historical precedent, and moral philosophy in equal measure. She speaks not as a politician, but as someone who genuinely believes in the Republic's founding principles. "You're staring," Qui-Gon says quietly, amusement in his voice. "I'm listening," Anakin protests, feeling heat rise in his face. "You're doing both, and there's nothing wrong with that." Qui-Gon's tone is gentle. She's an impressive woman. After the session concludes, Padme's aide intercepts them in the corridor. "Senator Amidala would like to speak with you, Master Jinn," and with Padawan Skywalker. They're led to Padme's private office, smaller than some, decorated with art from Naboo, rather than symbols of political power. Padme stands as they enter, and her eyes widen when she sees Anakin. "Ani, is that really you?" She laughs, delighted. "Look at you. You're nearly as tall as Master Qui-Gon." "I mean, hello, Senator. It's good to see you again." "It's good to see you too. Both of you." She gestures for them to sit. "Your mother talks about you constantly. She's very proud." "How is she?" Anakin asks, leaning forward. "Thriving. She's been teaching literacy to the refugee children we've settled on Naboo. She has a gift for it." Padme's expression softens. "You gave her a second life, Ani. She tells me that every time I visit." They talk for an hour. About Naboo, about the Senate, about the growing tensions in the Outer Rim that Padme is trying to address through diplomacy rather than military force. Anakin contributes to the conversation, but mostly he listens. Watches the way Padme's hands move when she's passionate about something, the way her eyes light up when she talks about helping people. When they leave, Qui-Gon puts his hand on Anakin's shoulder. "You're interested in her. It's not a question." Anakin doesn't bother denying it. "Is that allowed?" "Allowed," Qui-Gon considers. "The code says attachment is forbidden, but the code is not the Force, and I have learned over many years that the Force values love more than the Council acknowledges." He stops walking, turns to face Anakin directly. "If you care for someone, Anakin, let them be free. Don't possess them. Don't need them to complete you. Love them for who they are, not for what they give you. That is the difference between attachment and love." "Do you understand?" "I think so," Anakin says. "It's like I can care about Senator Amidala without needing her to care about me back. I can want her to be happy even if that happiness doesn't include me." "Exactly," Qui-Gon says. "And if you can hold to that, if you can love without grasping, then there is no darkness in it, only light." Scene 6. The Growing Shadow, age 17. Coruscant. The Senate Rotunda is less crowded today. A routine session, minor trade legislation, nothing that would draw protesters or media attention. Anakin accompanies Qui-Gon again, ostensibly to continue his political education. But as they walk through the corridors near the Chancellor's office, Anakin stops suddenly. His hand goes to his chest, his breathing quickens. The sensation is like vertigo, like the ground falling away beneath him, like standing at the edge of a cliff and looking down into darkness that has no bottom. "Anakin?" Qui-Gon's hand is on his shoulder immediately. "What's wrong?" "I don't know, I feel." Anakin turns, looking toward the Chancellor's office suite. The doors are closed. Security guards stand at parade rest. Everything appears normal, but the feeling intensifies. Something's wrong. In there, something's empty. His own force senses extend, probing the area. He feels nothing unusual, just the ambient presence of hundreds of beings conducting their business. But Anakin's sensitivity has always exceeded his own. The boy who saw Qui-Gon's death across kilometers of space might be sensing something Qui-Gon cannot. "Describe it," Qui-Gon says quietly. "It's like there should be a person in there, someone with feelings, with presence in the Force. But instead there's a wall, like someone cut a hole in the Force and put nothing inside." Anakin's voice drops to a whisper. "It feels like the Sith. Like Maul, but colder, older, hidden. Chancellor Katera has been in office for 2 years. He's been cordial to the Jedi, supportive of their peacekeeping missions, politically centrist. There's been no reason to suspect, but Dooku's words echo in his memory. Sidious is close, probably within the Republic's highest levels of government. We need to go, Qui-Gon says, steering Anakin away from the Chancellor's office. Now? And we need to speak with Count Dooku. The clone plot exposed, the rain on Kamino is not like rain on other worlds. It's heavier, colder, driven nearly horizontal by winds that scream across the planet's endless ocean. The cloning facility rises from the water like a geometric mountain, all sharp angles and pristine white surfaces, designed for function rather than beauty. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Dooku stand in an observation gallery overlooking one of the growth chambers. Below them, thousands of transparent cylinders contain beings in various stages of development, all of them identical, all of them growing at precisely twice the normal human rate. 200,000 units are ready, the Kaminoan Prime Minister Lama Su says, his elongated neck bending as he gestures to the chamber. With 1 million more well on their way, your army will be the finest in the galaxy. Our army, Obi-Wan says slowly. We didn't order an army. Lama Su's expression, difficult to read on a Kaminoan face, shifts to what might be confusion. Master Sifo Dyas placed the order 10 years ago, on behalf of the Jedi Council and the Republic. We have all the authorization codes. Sifo Dyas, a Jedi Master who died 10 years ago under circumstances that were never fully explained. Qui-Gon looks at Dooku, who stands apart from the group, his aristocratic face carefully neutral. Show us the authorization, Qui-Gon says. They're led to an administrative chamber where Lama Su pulls up records, financial transactions, communication logs, genetic licensing agreements. All of it bears Sifo Dyas' signature and Jedi Council authorization codes. The paper trail is impeccable. Except Sifo Dyas died before half these transactions occurred. The inhibitor chips, Dooku says quietly, speaking for the first time since they arrived. Show them the inhibitor chips. Lama Su's large eyes blink. The behavioral modification biochips. They are standard in all units, implanted at stage 3 of embryonic development, as specified in the original order. Specified by whom? Anakin asks. He's 17 now, tall enough to look Lama Su nearly eye to eye, his voice carrying an edge that makes the Kaminoan recoil slightly. By the client, Master Sifo Dyas. The chips ensure the clones remain loyal and obedient. They respond to specific command protocols. What protocols? Qui-Gon asks, though he already knows the answer. Dooku told him, but he needs to hear it confirmed. Lama Su accesses another file, contingency orders, 150 in total, covering various scenarios. Order 65, for example, instructs the clones to remove the Supreme Chancellor if he is deemed unfit. Order 66. He pauses. Order 66 instructs all clones to execute their Jedi commanders immediately upon receipt of the command. The silence in the chamber is absolute. Obi-Wan's hand moves to his lightsaber hilt unconsciously. Anakin's face has gone pale. Qui-Gon simply closes his eyes, feeling the full weight of Dooku's confession settling into confirmed fact. Who has the authority to transmit Order 66? Qui-Gon asks. The Supreme Chancellor, and the Supreme Chancellor alone. Outside the chamber, standing in one of Kamino's sterile corridors, the four of them form a tight circle. Rain hammers against the windows. Lightning illuminates the perpetual storm. The clone army is a weapon, Obi-Wan says, his voice tight with controlled fury. A weapon pointed directly at the Jedi Order. 200,000 soldiers programmed to kill us on command. 1 million more being grown. Sidious's plan, Dooku says. I told you, the entire war he's engineering, the separatist movement, the manufactured crisis, it's all designed to force the Republic to deploy this army. And when the Jedi lead them into battle, when we're scattered across the galaxy commanding clone battalions, Sidious will activate Order 66. Every Jedi will die simultaneously. The entire Order exterminated in a single coordinated strike. And the Chancellor can give this order at any time, Anakin says. Is Chancellor Katera? He stops. Master, when I felt that emptiness in the Force near his office, I know, Qui-Gon says. We need to investigate him. Carefully, quietly. If he is Sidious, or if Sidious is controlling him somehow, then we're already being watched, Obi-Wan finishes. Coming to Kamino may have tipped our hand. Not necessarily, Dooku says. The Kaminoans believe we're here on official Jedi business, following up on Sifo Dyas's order, and Sidious doesn't know I've turned against him. As far as he's concerned, I'm still his apprentice, overseeing the clone project as ordered. I can report that everything is proceeding according to plan. Can you contact him? Qui-Gon asks. Arrange a meeting, if we could catch him revealing himself. It won't be that simple, Dooku warns. Sidious is patient, careful. He won't reveal himself unless he's certain of victory. We need leverage, evidence, something that forces his hand. Then we gather evidence, Obi-Wan says. Financial records linking the clone army to Sidious. Communication logs, testimony from the Kaminoans about who really ordered the chips. And the chips themselves, Anakin adds. We need to remove them. From every clone. If Order 66 can't be transmitted, then Sidious loses his weapon. Qui-Gon finishes. But removing chips from 1,000,000 clones will take time. Years, possibly. And if Sidious realizes what we're doing, he'll activate the order early, Dooku says. Before we can finish. We'd save some clones, but lose most. And the Jedi would still be massacred. They stand in silence, the magnitude of the conspiracy pressing down on them. An army of slaves, programmed to commit genocide. A Sith Lord hiding in the highest levels of government. A war designed to destroy the Jedi Order from within. We need the Council, Qui-Gon says finally. All of this, the army, the chips, Sidious, it's too large for 4 Jedi to handle alone. We bring this to Yoda and Mace. We present everything. Dooku's testimony, the Kaminoan records, the evidence. And then we set a trap. A trap, Obi-Wan asks. For Sidious, we make him reveal himself, force him into a confrontation where he has no choice but to show his hand. Qui-Gon looks at Dooku. And you're the bait. The trap for Palpatine. The Jedi Council chamber is sealed. No recording devices. Just the 12 Council members, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Count Dooku standing in the center of the room like a criminal awaiting judgment. Mace Windu's voice is dangerously quiet. You murdered Sifo Dyas. I did, Dooku says. He doesn't flinch, doesn't make excuses. On Darth Sidious's orders, I was seduced by promises of power, of reforming a corrupt republic. I was a fool, and my foolishness cost a Jedi Master his life. And you erased Kamino from the archives? Ki-Adi-Mundi adds. Yes, and you helped create a slave army programmed to exterminate us. His presence in the Force extends throughout the room, weighing Dooku's words, his intentions, the truth beneath the confession. When he speaks, his voice carries sorrow rather than anger. Why my former Padawan? Why turn to the dark side? Because I was blind, Dooku says. Blind to my own arrogance. I saw corruption in the Republic. Real corruption, Master Yoda. The kind that you and the Council have been ignoring for decades. I saw senators taking bribes, corporations enslaving worlds, the Jedi serving a system that has failed its people. And I wanted to fix it. Sidious promised me he could. By killing millions. I didn't know the full scope of his plan. Not until recently, I thought. Dooku's voice breaks slightly. I thought we were building something better. Instead, I helped build a weapon of genocide aimed at the people I once called family. Qui-Gon steps forward. Masters, Count Dooku has committed terrible crimes. I don't deny that. But he's also the only being alive who could identify Sidious, who knows the details of his conspiracy, who can help us stop this before millions die. Punish him later. Use him now. Adi Gallia speaks, her voice measured. If what you're telling us is true, if there truly is a Sith Lord in the Senate, if the clone army is designed to destroy us, then we face an existential threat to the Order, perhaps the greatest threat since the Sith Wars. We cannot afford to ignore this testimony simply because the source is compromised. Investigate we must, Yoda says. The Chancellor Katera. Anakin sensed darkness around him. Yes, an emptiness in the Force, like someone hiding behind a wall. But carefully, if he is Sidious, or if Sidious controls him, then confronting him directly will trigger whatever contingencies he has prepared, Dooku finishes. Sidious has been planning this for decades. He will have escape routes, alternative identities, methods to activate Order 66 even if he's captured. You cannot simply arrest him and hope it ends. Then what do you propose? Mace asks. A trap, Dooku says. I return to him as his faithful apprentice. I tell him the Jedi have discovered Camino but believe it was commissioned by Sifo Dyas before his death. I tell him the Order is preparing to use the clone army for peacekeeping missions, exactly what he wants. And I tell him I've identified a powerful Force sensitive who could replace Maul, someone he's been watching since Naboo, someone he's always wanted. Every eye in the chamber turns to Anakin. The boy meets their stares without flinching. Me, he wants me as his apprentice. It makes sense, Qui-Gon says quietly. In the timeline Anakin's visions showed him, the one where I died. Palpatine groomed Anakin for years, manipulated him through fear of loss, through attachment to Padme, through frustration with the Council. Anakin was always his ultimate prize. You're proposing we put a 17-year-old Padawan in a room with the most dangerous Sith Lord in a millennium, Mace says flatly. As bait, I'm proposing we give Sidious what he thinks he wants, Qui-Gon corrects. A meeting with Anakin, an opportunity to begin the seduction. But Anakin won't be alone. And Anakin won't be vulnerable. He knows what Sidious will try because he's seen the future where it worked. That makes him the perfect bait. Anakin steps forward. I can do this. I know what he'll say. I know how he operates, and I'm not afraid of him. You should be, Yoda says. But there's something in his tone, not discouragement, but respect. Powerful beyond measure, Darth Sidious is. Seductive, patient, convinced he can turn you, he will be. Then let him try, Anakin says. Let him think he's winning. And when he's confident enough to drop the mask, when he reveals himself, that's when you come in. Dooku will contact Sidious through their usual encrypted channels and request a private meeting. He'll report that the Jedi discovered the clone army but accepted the Sifo Dyas story, that the Council is preparing to use the clones for peacekeeping, that everything is proceeding as planned. Then he'll mention Anakin, the chosen one, the boy who destroyed a Sith apprentice, who grows more powerful by the day, who shows signs of frustration with the Jedi Council's restrictions. Sidious, if he is who Dooku claims, will not be able to resist the opportunity. The meeting will be arranged in the Chancellor's office. Anakin will go in alone, or apparently alone. In reality, Qui-Gon, Mace, Yoda, and Obi-Wan will be positioned in adjacent chambers. Their Force presence is completely shielded, ready to intervene the moment Sidious reveals himself. One question, Obi-Wan says. If Chancellor Katera is Sidious, if he's been hiding in plain sight for years, why reveal himself now? Why take the risk? Because Sidious is arrogant, Dooku says. And because I will tell him that Anakin is close to turning. That one conversation might be enough to push him over the edge. Sidious's greatest weakness is his certainty that he's smarter than everyone else. That certainty will make him careless. Anakin Skywalker walks through the Senate building corridors in formal Jedi robes, a lightsaber at his belt, his expression appropriately serious for a young Padawan summoned to meet the Supreme Chancellor. Behind him, invisible in the Force, concealed through techniques that take decades to master, 4 of the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy follow at a distance. The Chancellor's office doors open. Anakin steps through and comes face to face with Chancellor Katera, a middle-aged Kefar with ritual tattoos, kind eyes and a smile that doesn't quite reach those eyes. Padawan Skywalker, the Chancellor says warmly. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. I've wanted to speak with you since I heard about your heroism on Naboo all those years ago. Anakin sits. The doors close, and the trap begins to spring. The final duel. You're very gifted, young Skywalker, Chancellor Katera says. He's seated behind his desk, hands folded, the picture of avuncular authority. Master Qui-Gon speaks highly of you, and Count Dooku has mentioned you as well. Count Dooku? Anakin keeps his voice neutral. Curious but not suspicious. I didn't know you spoke with him, Chancellor. He has interesting perspectives on Republic governance. Katera leans forward slightly. Tell me, are you happy with your training? Does the Jedi Order provide everything you need? Master Qui-Gon is an excellent teacher, Anakin says. I'm learning a lot. I'm sure you are. But I sense Katera's eyes lock on to Anakin's. Frustration. The Council doesn't fully appreciate your talents, do they? You're the chosen one, yet they treat you like any other Padawan. They fear your power. I don't know about that, sir. Don't you? Katera stands, walking around the desk. Anakin, may I call you Anakin? I've been watching you since you were 9 years old. That boy who saved a Jedi Master and helped liberate a planet. That boy had gifts the Jedi Order can barely comprehend. And now you're 17, merely a man. And they still hold you back. They still tell you what you can and cannot do. Doesn't that frustrate you? In the adjacent chamber, Qui-Gon tenses. This is it, the opening move of the seduction. The appeal to ego, the suggestion of restriction, the subtle wedge between Padawan and order. It's exactly what Dooku predicted. Anakin shifts in his seat, lets hesitation show on his face. Sometimes I wonder if I could do more, help more people, if the council wasn't so cautious. Exactly, Katera's voice becomes animated. Caution is the enemy of action. The galaxy is suffering, Anakin. Slavery, poverty, war on the outer rim. And the Jedi sit in their temple, meditating, while billions suffer. You could change that, if you had the power. The real power. What kind of power? Anakin asks. Katera walks to the window, gazing out at Coruscant's endless cityscape. There are abilities some consider to be unnatural. The Jedi teach you about the light side of the Force. But the Force is not light or dark, it simply is. And those who master all its aspects can accomplish what Jedi cannot. Like what? Like saving people from death? Like preventing the suffering you fear most? Katera turns back, and his eyes flash yellow for just a fraction of a second. The dark side can give you power to protect those you love, he continues. Power to save your mother, even from across the galaxy. Power to ensure Senator Amidala, you do care for her, don't you? Never comes to harm. Isn't that what you want? To have the strength to protect everyone you care about? Anakin's hand tightens on the arm of his chair. How do you know about Padme? I know many things, Anakin. Katera's voice drops, becomes something else. Older, colder, laden with malice, barely restrained. I know the Jedi will fail you. I know your mother's freedom is temporary. She could be recaptured, enslaved again, and you'd be helpless to prevent it. I know Senator Amidala faces assassination attempts regularly, and one day your power won't be enough to save her, unless you embrace what the Jedi fear, unless you learn from someone who can teach you what they will not. Someone like you, Anakin says quietly. The mask drops. Not gradually, not piece by piece. The transformation is instant and total. Chancellor Katera's kind expression vanishes like smoke. His eyes burn sulfuric yellow. His posture shifts from gentle authority to predatory readiness. The dark side floods the room like poison gas, thick and choking. Yes, Darth Sidious says, his voice no longer Katera's cultured tones, but something rasping and ancient. Someone exactly like me. In the adjacent chamber, Qui-Gon makes a sharp hand signal. The shielding techniques drop. 4 Jedi Masters burst through the doors simultaneously. Qui-Gon through the left entrance, Mace and Yoda through the right, Obi-Wan through the main doors behind Anakin. Sidious doesn't flinch. He smiles. I wondered when you'd reveal yourselves, he says. His hands move, and twin lightsabers materialize from concealed sleeves, blood-red blades igniting with a sound like screaming. Did you truly think I didn't know, that I couldn't sense you hiding in my own office like rats in the walls? It's over, Sidious, Mace says, his purple blade already burning. You're outnumbered. You're exposed. Surrender. Sidious's laugh is terrible. Not the grandfatherly chuckle of Chancellor Katera, but the sound of something that has abandoned humanity centuries ago. Over? It's just beginning. He attacks. The opening move is Force Lightning, not targeted at one Jedi, but at all of them simultaneously, a sphere of electrical energy that fills the entire office. Mace's Vapad catches his portion and redirects it. Yoda absorbs the energy into his small frame and grounds it through the floor. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan deflect with their lightsabers, blue and green blades acting as lightning rods. Anakin is shielded by Qui-Gon's positioning. The boy rolls behind the Chancellor's desk, lightsaber igniting, blue blade ready. Sidious shifts to direct combat. His twin blades become a blur, Form 7 Juyo at its most aggressive, designed to overwhelm through sheer unpredictable violence. He targets Mace first, recognizing Vapad as the most dangerous counter to his style. Their blades meet in a cascade of purple and red light. But Mace is not alone. Qui-Gon attacks from the flank, his Ataru form providing dynamic angles that Sidious must account for. Obi-Wan holds the defensive perimeter with Soresu, preventing escape. Yoda circles, waiting for the opening that his 800 years of experience tells him will come. The office becomes a war zone. The massive desk explodes into splinters as Sidious throws it with the Force, Windows shatter. The chandelier crashes down. Senate pods visible through the broken windows tilt as beings inside realize the Supreme Chancellor's office is hosting a lightsaber duel. Sidious is magnificent and terrible in equal measure. He fights 4 Jedi Masters simultaneously and holds his ground through sheer malevolence given form. His blades cut through marble pillars. His force attacks, pushes, pulls, lightning, come from unpredictable angles. He kills no one, but he wounds all of them. A shallow cut across Obi-Wan's shoulder. A force blast that sends Qui-Gon crashing into a wall. Lightning that catches Mace's offhand, making his grip falter. "You cannot defeat me," Sidious shouts, his voice echoing with dark side power. "I am the culmination of 1,000 years of Sith planning. I am the shadow that will devour your precious light." But he is tiring. 4 against 1 is overwhelming even for Darth Sidious. Mace's Vapad continues to channel his darkness back at him. Yoda's counterattacks are surgical, targeting openings with the precision of 8 centuries of mastery. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan coordinate their strikes, supporting each other's weaknesses. And then Anakin moves. The boy has been watching, learning, waiting for his moment. He sees it when Sidious overextends against Mace. A half-second opening where the Sith Lord's rear guard drops to commit power to a forward strike. Anakin leaps over the destroyed desk, his blue blade coming down in a gem-so power strike aimed not at Sidious himself, but at the Sith Lord's right-hand lightsaber. The strike connects with the hilt, not severing it, but knocking it from Sidious's grip. The weapon flies across the room and deactivates. Sidious snarls and spins toward Anakin, left blade raised. But Yoda is already there, green blade intercepting red. "Meddle with this boy you will not." The tide turns. With only 1 lightsaber and facing 4 opponents, Sidious cannot maintain his defense. Qui-Gon's blade scores a hit across his ribs, not deep, but painful. Obi-Wan cuts the remaining lightsaber from his hand. Mace drives forward with a Vapad sequence that forces Sidious backward. The Sith Lord's back hits the wall. He's surrounded, wounded, disarmed, but his eyes, those yellow, hateful eyes, burn with undiminished malice. "You think this ends me?" Sidious hisses. "I have contingencies. I have apprentices. I have—" "Count Dooku has turned against you. Your clone army's inhibitor chips are being deactivated as we speak. Shaak Ti is on Kamino right now, working with the Kaminoans to remove them. Order 66 will never be transmitted. Your conspiracy is exposed, and the Republic you tried to destroy will endure." For the first time, something like fear crosses Sidious's face. "No. No. I was so close. I planned for centuries. You cannot." Mace Windu's blade comes to rest at Sidious's throat. "You are under arrest, Darth Sidious, for treason against the Republic, for conspiracy to commit genocide, for the murder of Jedi Master Sifo Dyas, for crimes too numerous to list. You will be tried before the Senate, and the galaxy will see what you truly are." Sidious tries one final attack, a last desperate burst of force lightning directly at Mace. But Yoda is faster. The Grand Master extends his hand and absorbs the energy completely, not redirecting it but neutralizing it. "Enough, you have done. Face justice now you will." Force suppression cuffs are placed on Sidious's wrists. The dark side presence that has haunted the Republic for decades begins to diminish, starved of its connection to the Force. The being who was Chancellor Katera slumps against the wall, suddenly looking smaller, older, defeated. Senate guards, briefed ahead of time by Bail Organa, who Qui-Gon brought into confidence 3 days ago, enter to take custody of the prisoner. The galaxy's HoloNet is already broadcasting emergency bulletins. The Supreme Chancellor arrested. The Jedi claiming Sith infiltration. Chaos is coming. Political chaos, social chaos, the kind of upheaval that follows when beings learn their leader was a monster in disguise. But the Sith are defeated. Order 66 will never be transmitted. The Jedi Order survives. Anakin Skywalker sheathes his lightsaber and looks at Qui-Gon, the man who believed in him, the man he saved on Naboo 7 years ago, the man who became the father he needed. "We did it," Anakin says, and his voice carries wonder. "We actually did it. You did it." Qui-Gon corrects gently. "You saved me on Naboo, and that one choice changed everything." The future, years later, Naboo. The Varakino Villa sits on the shore of Naboo's lake country, its classical architecture softened by vines and time. The water reflects afternoon sunlight in patterns that dance across the stone terrace. Inside, in a room filled with books and comfortable furniture, Shmi Skywalker sits with her grandchildren. Luke and Leia Skywalker are 5 years old. Twins, born a year after Anakin and Padme's open marriage, attended by half the Senate and most of the Jedi Council. Luke has his father's unruly hair and his mother's eyes. Leia has her mother's determination and her father's force sensitivity, already moving small objects when she concentrates. "Tell us the story again, Grandma," Leia demands. "About how Father saved Master Qui-Gon?" "This is the third time today. Well, your father was 9 years old, flying a starfighter in a battle he had no business being in." Outside on the terrace, Anakin and Padme sit together, watching the lake. Anakin is 26 now, a Jedi Master in his own right, though he's never been formally granted a council seat, and doesn't want one. Padme is 34, Senator of Naboo, one of the most respected voices in a republic that is slowly, painfully reforming itself. "The Military Oversight Committee approved the final clone citizenship legislation," Padme says. "Full rights, full protections under Republic law. The last of them will be free within the month." "Good," Anakin says. "They've waited long enough." The aftermath of Sidious's arrest was chaos. The Senate spent a year investigating the extent of the Sith conspiracy. Chancellor Katera, revealed as Darth Sidious through testimony, evidence, and a very public force demonstration where Yoda made him channel the dark side in front of cameras, was tried, convicted, and executed. His replacement, Bail Organa, spent the next 3 years dismantling emergency powers legislation and implementing reforms. The clone army was demilitarized. The Kaminoans, facing prosecution for participating in a conspiracy of genocide, cooperated fully in removing every inhibitor chip. 200,000 clones were freed. The millions still being grown were allowed to complete development at normal rates and given choices about their futures. The separatist movement, deprived of Sidious's manipulation and funding, collapsed into legitimate political reform movements. Some worlds left the Republic, but through democratic processes rather than violence. The galaxy didn't fall apart, it adapted, and the Jedi Order reformed. Qui-Gon led the Reformation, with Dooku's philosophical guidance and over Mace Windu's protests. The prohibition on attachment was re-examined. Padawans were taught to process emotions rather than suppress them. The living force philosophy gained prominence. Qui-Gon himself appears on the terrace, older now, his hair more gray than brown, but his presence still steady and strong. "The children are demanding stories about you again," he tells Anakin. "Shmi's been spinning tales for an hour. Let them have their hero stories," Anakin says. "Soon enough they'll learn the truth, that I was just a scared kid who didn't want someone he cared about to die." Obi-Wan arrives an hour later, visiting from Mandalore where he's been consulting with Duchess Satine. They finally admitted their feelings to each other 2 years ago, and while Obi-Wan remains a Jedi, the Order no longer demands he choose between his calling and his heart. They sit together on the terrace as the sun sets. Qui-Gon and Anakin, Obi-Wan and Padme, Shmi with her grandchildren. 3 generations connected by the Force and by love. "Do you ever think about it?" Anakin asks Qui-Gon quietly, when the others are distracted. "The timeline where I didn't come back? Where you died?" Sometimes, Qui-Gon admits. "Obi-Wan tells me that in that timeline, he would have trained you out of obligation rather than choice. That the Council would have accepted you only because I died. That you would have grown up without the guidance you needed. And I would have fallen," Anakin says. It's not a question. He knows. The visions he received on Naboo have never completely faded. He still sees glimpses sometimes, a dark future where fear and manipulation turned him into something monstrous. "Perhaps," Qui-Gon says. "Or perhaps you would have found your way regardless. The Force works in mysterious ways. But this way is better," Anakin says firmly. "This way, everyone I love is alive. The Jedi Order survives. The Republic is reforming. The Sith are gone. This way is definitely better." Luke and Leia run onto the terrace, chasing each other with sticks they're pretending are lightsabers. They crash into Anakin's legs and he catches them both, laughing, lifting them up as they shriek with delight. Qui-Gon watches and feels the Force flow through the moment, warm, balanced, exactly as it should be. A 9-year-old boy chose love over duty 7 years ago, chose to save one man instead of completing a mission, and that choice saved the galaxy. The prophecy is fulfilled, balance is restored, not through destroying the Sith after decades of darkness, but through preventing that darkness from ever taking root. The Chosen One brought balance by choosing light when it mattered most. And in doing so, he got what every child deserves and what the Force clearly intended him to have: a father, a family, a future without fear. The Force is balanced, the Sith are gone, the Jedi live, and Anakin Skywalker, who once was enslaved on Tatooine, who flew a starfighter through a wall to save the only man who believed in him, sits on a terrace in Naboo with his children and his master, and feels nothing but gratitude. The twin suns of Tatooine are far away. The memories of slavery are distant. The dark future that might have been is nothing but shadows that never fell. There is only this: love, light, and the steady warmth of the living Force flowing through all things. Anakin closes his eyes and smiles. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.